I'm Lexi, and I'm in the US. Today, we are going to talk some more about spices. So this is Let's Talk Spices, Part 2, Intermediates. Just like last time, I've got 10 spices selected here and some jars for refilling things. And we're just going to go through these. I'll tell you what they're good for, and hopefully you learn something. And I will link part 1, beginner, down below, where we went through 10 pretty basic spices. These are just a little more advanced. Advanced seems like the wrong word to use with flavors. How about let's go with unusual, a little more unusual. I've kind of got these in 2 categories, baking spices and savory spices, but there is a little bit of crossover. So let's start with this one. This is cloves. And do I actually even have any cloves to no, I don't even have any cloves to refill this jar with. I don't use a lot of cloves. I find the clove flavor very strong, but it tends to be present in things like pumpkin spice or apple pie. But it can also be used in savory cooking. It just isn't a whole lot in America. Now this is powdered cloves. And these, I'm going to come closer to the camera so you can see, are whole cloves. And I know I've seen people take these things and like poke them into oranges. To do like aromatherapy kind of things at Christmas. Or I believe I've seen these poked into ham too. I don't eat a lot of ham, so it's not something I've ever really paid attention to or looked into. But that's what a clove looks like before it's all ground up and turned into powder. But yeah, that's mostly used in baking. Generally in things that you would associate with like Christmas or fall or winter. It's a warming spice. You'll find it in apple cider, maybe apple sauce, things like that. So next, and this bottle you can tell gets used a lot because it is empty, 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 empty. This is cinnamon. Now we all know some things that cinnamon's good for, don't we? Applesauce, pumpkin spice, apple pie. It's actually surprisingly good in peach pie. But in other countries, cinnamon is actually used as a savory spice. I've had rice before cooked in a Middle Eastern style that had cinnamon in it. I know that it's used in some South African cooking in savory applications. And it's just all around delicious. It's not an unusual spice from the sense that I'm sure at least 90% of you have cinnamon around. But it's a little more unusual in the sense that America doesn't tend to use it in savory applications. But expand your worlds. Take a look at what you could try it in. Google Middle Eastern recipes or just savory recipes using cinnamon. There's a lot of stuff out there. Moving into another one that is versatile. We have nutmeg. And yes, nutmeg is another one of those that is traditionally in pumpkin spice and apple cider and is used at the holidays as a warming spice, things like that. Come on, I can fit that much more in here, right? Mostly. But nutmeg is also very good at making things taste more like what they're supposed to taste like. So try putting a pinch of nutmeg in your bechamel sauce when you're making lasagna, or even a pinch of nutmeg in your chili or in your red sauce, just a little bit. You don't want to taste the nutmeg. You want to let the nutmeg work to enhance the other foods. And that brings us to ginger. Ginger in American cooking is, again, most often used in things like pumpkin spice, gingerbread, warming spices around the holidays. But in Asian cooking, ginger is very prevalent. And that's all varieties of Asian cooking that I'm familiar with. And as much as I love, again, all varieties of Asian food, it is also probably the food I am the least familiar with cooking. So there is a possibility I'm wrong and there is some variety of Asian cooking that doesn't use a lot of ginger. But to my knowledge, it is a very prevalent flavor in Asian cooking. And I love it. It's just, I think I like using ginger in savory applications more than I like using it in sweet with things like pumpkin pie. But I'll tell you, how I said cinnamon is good in peach pie, try adding some ginger. Just a little. You don't want it overpowering, but just a little bit of ginger and some honey, and that will do things that you never imagined to your pie. Okay. And then here we have cardamom. Cardamom is probably most prevalent in Indian cooking, but I like to use it if I'm making like a pear sauce. Cardamom and coriander together with pear, I just think is really good. I don't use a lot of cardamom. If I think of any other applications that I tend to use it in, I will put that here in front of the nice purple curtain. But yeah, it's got, and I get it everywhere, it's got a slightly floral, slightly lemony flavor to it. So anything where that would be helpful, this is what you should reach for. And just because it's not typical of the dish that you're trying to make, if you think maybe just a little bit of a lemony kind of flavor might work, try it. Food, like language, food evolves by us trying things. How do you know that you aren't going to like it if you don't try it? So trust your nose, trust your instincts, and don't be afraid to play a little bit. Food is fun. Let's have fun with it. Next, I've got coriander. Like I said, I like to use that with the cardamom when I'm making pear sauce. That's probably the thing I use it in most often. But it's also prevalent in Indian cooking and in Mexican cooking. And probably some more things that I'm not thinking of. Again, come on. Yeah, this is a nice new jar and the seal is still intact, and there we go. And is almost the exact same jar that I have. But this one is hand painted, so I'm going to go ahead and switch it over. Okay, this is the ground version of coriander. I do have the whole seed version here. I don't use this very much. I don't use this ever. It still has a seal on it. This is one of those, again, where somebody gave me their whole spice rack because they just didn't know what to do with it. So that's what coriander looks like. and I'll do something with it. I'll figure it out, because we don't like food waste around here, do we? And that's still food waste. Why do I have an extra thingy? I don't use them anyway. I'm getting spices all over my table. Now in the UK, I know they refer to what we call cilantro as coriander. And they refer to what we call coriander as coriander. It's the same plant. Coriander is, in America, coriander is the seeds. So, a spice. And cilantro is the leaves. So, an herb. Because herbs are the leaf of a plant and spices are any other part. But they are from the same plant. So, while the UK is most certainly justified in calling them both coriander, I personally think that that makes things a little confusing because they don't taste the same. I would not add powdered coriander to the same kind of dish I would add cilantro to. Cilantro I would typically add to Mexican food, like if I was doing a Mexican style pork taco, or I would add it to Thai food a lot, although strictly speaking that's a different variety. But coriander, the ground coriander, the seeds, I would typically think more Indian food. Now this one, well, this one I forgot to buy the right spice to refill it. But this is powdered mustard. And what I use powdered mustard for the most, when I have it, is pork. I love it on pork chops. Now you could do it on like chicken or something too. But pork I think is really where mustard shines. That's just my opinion. But again, experiment. Just because I'm telling you this is what I use something for, that doesn't mean that that's all you can use it for. We've got two more here. This is dill. I like to use dill on fish primarily, or on vegetables, like a vegetable dip, or even just roasted vegetables. I think I've put it on chicken before, but I do tend to lean more towards seafood. Dill is the flavor, well, dill pickles. So that's the kind of flavor that you get. It goes very nicely with, seafood and vegetables, in my opinion. And you get these real, I don't even know how to show you this. I will take a picture and insert it. That's how I'll show you this. These real fine little leaves. And it almost looks lacy when it's growing. It's a really pretty plant. And so fragrant. But when you're making pickles, you actually use the dill seed and not the dill leaves when you're making pickles. Close. There we go. And the last one we have for today, this should have gone with the baking stuff. This is allspice. Allspice is not all the spices mixed together. Allspice is a spice that tastes like all the spices mixed together. So it smells like it's got cloves and nutmeg and cinnamon in it, but it really is a spice in and of itself. I will find a picture of an allspice pod and put it up here, just so you can see what that looks like. But that is 10 more spices that if you don't already have them in your spice drawer, you may want to consider adding. I can't imagine not having any of these in my spice drawer for any length of time. This, where'd it go? This missing mustard is going to really throw me for a loop until I remember to buy some. But that's all I've got for today. If you could give the video a thumbs up and then subscribe to the channel, I'd really appreciate it. And if you subscribe, then you won't miss parts 3 and 4. Because there will be a parts 3 and 4. Advanced spices, which are just going to be things that are even more unusual and exciting. And then hot and spicy, because there's enough varieties of hot and spicy out there that they deserve their own video, right? That's what I thought so too. If you have any questions, let me know down below. I'll do my best to answer them. And thank you for taking time out of your day to learn what I had to say about spices. I hope it was helpful. But that's all I've got for today. So as always, I'll see you next time. Bye!